big deal. If I can make it happen, I'm going to try and make it happen. So this office has like a strong history of just like high level success. So it's very easy to want to talk to Damien's people. So anyways, I'm really happy to be here. I know a lot of you guys are like newer faces I haven't really met before. So I hope in due time I get to know you guys a little bit better. But like I said, my name is Dante Reynolds. Been selling Cutco since 2009, February time. And college kid, the longest summer job I've ever had at this point. So 15 years strong with Cutco, 2 million personal, ran offices, all that good stuff. So he asked me today to give you guys a really short message, but it's really just based on the idea of just creating more excitement when it comes to Mr. and Mrs. Jones during the demo to buy more Cutco from you. You guys have probably heard this already during training or at a meeting or from another CSP or like Drew or someone or Jordan or someone like that, that Cutco is good enough to sell itself. I'm sure we can all agree on that. It's top of its game, top line product. You're not selling crappy stuff. You're selling stuff that literally can sell itself. But a long time ago when I was working with a guy named Marcus Robbins in San Antonio, he was my original district manager when I was a college kid, going to meetings just like how you guys are doing right now. I remember him telling me that Cutco is good enough to sell itself in pieces, but good reps sell sets. And if your goal is that you want to sell more sets versus pieces, one of the things that probably don't get talked about enough is just simply getting customers to be excited with enthusiasm to want to buy Cutco in the first place. We can all agree that logically it makes sense to buy Cutco?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. Logically it makes sense. Buy it once, you're done. And I was working at a show in Houston actually earlier today, a big fishing show at the convention center. And I ran across a guy who bought Cutco from his granddaughter about 30 years ago, and it was the first time he was asking about getting them sharpened. Logically, some of the best knives out there, okay? But what I've also learned that in my time selling Cutco is that you have to get customers genuinely excited in the moment to want to pull the trigger to buy it. Because there's gonna be times where you do your demo and everything's gonna make sense, but have you guys ever had those customers who are kind of like, I mean, they're great knives, I totally understand, this all sounds familiar already, they're great knives, they're awesome, you did a great job. That's always the worst. You did a great job, you're such a good salesperson. They don't buy anything, and your heart breaks all inside. And then they give you all these accolades, and they say, but we can't buy it. I don't know, I think our knives are okay, or we can't do it because of the, all sound familiar so far? You have to get customers to go away. This is going to sound totally weird, but follow with me on this. Get them away from buying Cutco as a need, get them to buy it because they want it. And here's one thing about sales that applies to just about everything. You guys know as well in your personal life and also like your college friends, your family, stuff like that, there are plenty of things that people need, but people are usually more quick to buy things that they're excited that they want. People don't need to eat out, they want to eat out. People don't need to eat steak, they want to eat steak. Everyone following so far? You want to kind of change the perspective of your customer during the demo to get them so genuinely excited about Cutco as a product itself to where the logic justifies the purchase, but the enthusiasm desires the purchase. Does that make sense? There's a difference between logically it makes sense and then desiring it through enthusiasm. Cool? So what I'm going to give you guys here today is going to be some stuff that's really duplicatable. Like I'm going to give you guys some of these lists, like some of these bullet points. You actually might be a little underwhelmed, but it's okay because this is stuff that I have to remind myself from time to time on. I have to go back to the basics and just really focus on like getting Mrs. Jones excited by Cutco. So let's go ahead and hit 5 bullet points. So the first one here is you need to be really good at using stories to create social proof. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that, it doesn't even matter what product it is. So I have like a handful of stories that I keep in my back pocket from personal experiences, from customers, family, friends, whatever, whenever I'm trying to sell something to someone. So an example would be like the can opener. So my grandma is absolutely in love with our can opener. Why? Because she worked in computer programming her whole life and she has horrendously bad carpal tunnel and arthritis and her hands are messed up to say the least, right? So she doesn't cook a whole lot, but it's really hard for her to grip things. For you guys that have family members that are going through that, you guys know what I'm talking about. So she hasn't been able to use can opener, scoops, all kinds of stuff. She can't grip things, right? But the can opener, the Cutco one, is the only one where she can get a good enough grip and hold it, and then the can opener is so good itself that she doesn't have to fight it, and it's literally her favorite, one of her favorite pieces of Cutco. So when I'm selling a can opener to a customer, I don't say like, oh, Mr. Jones, this is the can opener. It does this, it has the sharp edge, it has the magnet, da-da-da. That's not a bad thing, but if you want to get people excited and make it more relatable, then use the grandma story. That's what I do. And if you don't have a grandma that does this, just say, hey, there's a guy that I work with named Dante, his grandmother, fill in this story. Make sense? So steal my stories I'm about to give you and you can use them with your demos. Yeah, there's actually this guy I work with named Dante who's been selling Cutco for a while. His grandmother has really bad carpal tunnel and like arthritis from working on computers for a while. And one of her favorite things about the can opener is not just that it's Cutco and it's awesome, but that it actually has a comfortable grip, has a sharp edge that actually cuts clean, and then she doesn't have to fight it at all. And then whenever she's done, she doesn't have to like do the little finger thing where you have to like pull out the top of the can. She just uses the magnet and goes, and just pops the top off. And when she's done, she just throws it in the dishwasher, and then whenever it wears out, she just sends it back and gets a new one. When you say it in that way, can you see how it's like the same demo, but it feels like a story versus you just spitting facts to them? When you say all the fact stuff, they're gonna be like, oh, that logically makes sense. But when you use a story, it creates more relatability and more desire. Everyone making sense so far? Use stories. So next time you're talking about like the spatula spreader, like Mrs. Jones, oh my gosh, like so many people think this is just like a butter spreader kind of thing. This is actually, I like to call it a knife spreader. So Mrs. Jones, I have a ton of customers who don't even cook, especially the husbands that don't even cook, and they come up to our booth and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best knife Cutco makes, da 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 da. And the reason why they love it is because it's our best knife for sandwiches, pies, cakes, and avocados. Do you guys ever do avocados sometimes? Yeah? Oh my gosh, this thing is super underrated. Let me show you. And then what I do is I turn it up a few notches. So for you guys that don't know me, Damien, I've known him for, I don't know, he's probably known me for too long, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. But the thing about with Damien is that he knows that I'm like super introverted, I am not a bubbly, outgoing type person or anything like that, but when I'm working with customers, I understand the value of turning it up a few notches. Like if I get enthusiastic and I show my excitement about something, it's gonna bleed off into them. Everyone following? So when I talk about that spatula, and I go and I do the thing where I pretend like I'm holding an avocado, like yeah, so Mrs. Jones, like my wife, she loves avocado toast. So whenever she is doing that in the morning, she'll take her knife out of her block, she'll use the sharp edge to cut the avocado open, then she'll use the dull side to slice it, scoop it, and then spread it afterwards, only have one knife to clean. It's one of our most underrated knives that we make, and anyone that does sandwiches or avocados, this is one of their favorites. Can you guys see how like when you share the story like that, it's gonna create more want? It's less about the need, it's less about the practical, it's more about the desire. Everyone still following? Use stories, create social proof. Bringing customers' energies up through rapport and a good demo. Guys, you have to be good at building rapport. Like again, the knives sell themselves, but that will only take you so far. The way that you're gonna sell more sets is by building more trust. Why should a customer invest thousands of dollars into a set of knives that they may not have ever even heard of, right? That's kind of a jump of trust for someone who doesn't know you. Like if you're working with like a referral, a family friend, a friend's parents, friends who like you don't really know, but they kind of heard your name through like the grapevine of like their kid or something like that, you have to be really good at building rapport, because I don't know if you guys have heard the saying before, so just kind of follow with me this. Like me, know me, trust me, pay me. Does that ring a bell at all? If you guys haven't heard that before, write that down. People have to like you before they want to get to know you. People have to get to know you before they begin to trust you. Once people trust you, they feel comfortable buying from you. By the way, that's a skill for life moment right there. Even beyond the knife company, some of you guys might be here for like a semester of school. Some of you guys might be here for like 10 years. You literally have no idea how long you've been with Cutco. But while you're here, learn everything you can. And that's one of the most important skills. Guys, I started selling Cutco when I was 19. I'm 34 years old now. I'm like old compared to like you guys, right? So the idea is that I take the skills I learned from Cutco, and as I get older, I understand how valuable they are in the real world. So when I'm working with a customer, how do I get them to be more excited about the whole demo itself? You guys ever done a demo for someone, you feel like you're just talking at them the whole time? Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm reading my manual, otherwise the Damien like spider senses will tingle. I'm not reading my manual, he's gonna throw a brick at me or something. I get that feeling. I was a rep at one point. But when you're sitting in front of your customer, you can just tell you're just talking to a wall. You guys ever had a demo like that? I know I have many times. Basically what that tells me is that there's something that I didn't do right at the beginning or during the demo that's gonna cause them to want to buy Cutco or be excited to even be there. Guys, you're gonna ask them to spend a lot of money on a good set of knives. It's totally worth it. Logistically, makes sense. But again, we're not talking about need, we're talking about desire. We want them to want to spend the money on Cutco. You have to build rapport. Here's a good test for you. Now, I'm gonna ask like a group question, so just kind of like be totally honest, there's no wrong answer here. Who here feels like they're actually good at building rapport with someone they don't know? Like a Mrs. Jones friend. And by the way, if there's one person that feels strongly about it, you know, stand strong, it's all good. You feel strong, you're kind of raising your hand a little bit, kind of, sort of, okay. So here's what I tell you, if you are really good at rapport, You want to play the 20 questions game. So I used to run an office like 10 plus years ago with Cutco. And one of the things I always taught my guys was really plainly is that if you're not good at building rapport, practice. And the way you practice is by playing the 20 questions game. Meet with someone in your office. Talk to Damien, talk to Nam, talk to someone from your class. I don't care. Talk to somebody, talk to your dog. The point being is that you want to be really good at asking someone 20 questions about themselves before they know anything about you. So here's the thing that you want to do. It's like, God dang it, Dante, like where do I even start with that? Like there's police questions out of thin air. Kind of, but not really. There's a bunch of different like baseline questions that you can start with. And why am I sharing this with you guys on the whole premise of this topic? Because it doesn't matter how good Cutco is, and it really doesn't matter what you tell them. If they don't feel like they like you, and they trust you, and they kind of know you at least a little bit, or they're not really going to care what you have to say. Can we all agree on that? It's a lot easier to want to listen to someone when you actually have a somewhat of a connection with them, or you feel like you have some sort of level of rapport. So, Miss Jones, like, hey, just out of curiosity, I know I saw your friend Sally from down the street last week and everything. She told me a little bit about you, but not too much, so I'm just curious, like, where are you guys even from? I was like, oh, you guys are from North Carolina. Hey, that's awesome. What part of North Carolina are you guys from? Oh, we're from Raleigh or whatever. It's like, great. Like, wait, so that's pretty far away. What brought you guys over here? It's like, oh, my husband, like, we got married, and then we got the job over here in Austin and stuff like that, so moved here. I was like, cool, where do you guys work? Oh, I work at Dell. What do you do at Dell? Do you see how this whole thing can go down a rabbit hole? And here's the crazy part about it. They don't know anything about you, but it's just human nature that when you ask them a lot of questions about themselves and people are able to have that freedom to just talk to you openly, it creates a natural likeness with that person. And what inevitably happens? They like you, and then step two is they want to get to know you. That's when they start flipping it around by saying, hey, by the way, like, tell me where you go to school again? You go to school at Texas State and you're doing this for college? Or that's a great sign. When they're starting to ask you questions without you having to bring anything up, that's how you know you're in a good place with someone. Does that all make sense so far? You have to be good at building rapport. And by the way, don't be weird about spending 30 minutes with them. I've had demos before where I did the demo. The guy gave me an objection. I remember this happened last fall season. I remember doing the demo for a guy, and I spent like 30 minutes with him. We were at a mall during December. It's like a whole part of the events team. And I remember this guy, we were looking at a homemaker set. He was going to walk around and think about it, and then somehow we got on the topic of brisket. He talked to me, I kid you not, for about 45 minutes about brisket. I have never seen someone so passionate about brisket. You know, brisket's awesome, but he's really passionate about brisket. He's opened up a website. He has like a whole like recipe, like following thing that he does online and everything. Like he's really into it. So after 45 minutes of honestly me not actually learning that much about brisket, but him just sharing about how passionate he is about brisket, that went from I don't know if I want to buy a homemaker to about like 4K CPO worth of stuff. Because out of nowhere, we bonded, and then he was like, you know, just out of curiosity, like how much is like the flatware set? And I started working with him on that, and then some gadgets, and things just kind of turned into a whole other animal. And he ended up buying a lot of stuff. I didn't have to do anything special. All I did was I built rapport with him, and I developed a likeness with him. And so whenever he asked questions about anything, because we had a bond, and I was enthusiastic about what I was showing him, he felt that enthusiasm, and he justified his purchase because it logically makes sense. Everyone following? Let's go to the next part here. So this is still part of bullet point 2 though. You need to be really good at cutting leather, and you have to be excited for it. This is going to be their first time seeing the demo, most likely. It's going to be the 100th time for you. I even remind our people on our events team sometimes, like, look, you cut leather 10,000 times. This is their first time cutting leather. You have to remember that. You could have 5 bad demos in a day where no one buys anything from you, and I get it, that sucks. All you want to do is just like go home. You just want to play video games, go to school, hang out with your friends, and just kind of like, gosh dang, I couldn't even sell a paring knife. I don't know how to sell Cutco. You ask any of those people on that wall over there, all the people that are on our key events level tier who've sold hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of Cutco. I've worked with all these people, most of them for many years. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen Coco work at a booth, a girl who won her Rolex last year, and she's like, okay, no one wants to buy Cutco from me. I guess I'm washed up, Dante. And I'm like, shut the dang hell up. Like, you know how to sell Cutco, you know how to sell plenty of Cutco. Spencer Campbell, he has those days. So a couple years ago when he was doing his push week, and he's like, God, I guess no one wants to buy Cutco from me. And I'm like, shut the heck up, Spencer. You know how to sell Cutco. And he won his Rolex this last year too, and won his silver cup. So the point being is that when you have bad days, you can't let it affect your enthusiasm. You have to go into every single demo and cut that leather just like it's day one. When a customer cuts leather with you, you need to smile, you need to be excited, be like, Miss Jones, isn't that so awesome? Isn't that so cool? Even though you just got your your rear end kicked in like all day earlier that day. One of the best things about this job is just teaching you resilience. So if you want to develop that skill, then you need to go through struggle. And you need to make sure that all the demos you do, you give every customer your very best. Smile, enthusiasm, give your customer the service that they deserve. Okay, this is the third thing, mirroring and matching. I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but the concept of mirroring and matching is pretty straightforward. So basically what that means, guys, is that if your customer, when you get there, within the first few minutes, you can tell they're very chill, very low energy, maybe even borderline grumpy sometimes. I had a lady that I saw on an appointment a couple days ago, and I remember she came in with her arms crossed. I do things a little different, but she came into the location I had set up, and she came in, arms crossed, with her knives, sits down. I'm smiling like, hey, did you find the place okay? This and that and the other. She's like, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep. I was getting one-word responses. I didn't do anything to this lady, so clearly something's off. And so I basically, over the course of 15 minutes, I just killed her with kindness. And I just eventually started asking her questions. And I got her to unfold her arms, and I got her to like start opening up and giving more than one-word responses. And by the time it was all said and done, I made a couple of cheesy jokes. She had a good time. I offered to show her stuff. She said sure. I showed her some things, made some more cheesy jokes. And by the end of it, she bought a few pieces, which, considering how that situation started, is a big win. So always remember, just because someone starts at a low level of energy, you need to be slightly above where they're at, just a little bit. Don't be like over the top. That's just weird to them, okay? Be right where they're at. And then over the course of your demo, as they start to get more comfortable, you start raising your enthusiasm. And as the demo goes on, when you guys both get in a really good place, they're gonna feel really comfortable buying from you. Is that really what it comes down to? If they can afford the knives, which most people can, believe it or not. Maybe not everyone can afford an Ultimate, but a lot of people can buy Cutco. They really, really want to. The other thing is too, is like, again, logically it makes sense, but do they have desire to buy it? If they want to buy the knives and they can afford to buy the knives and it makes sense to buy the knives, they just have to like you and trust you enough to justify the purchase. Build rapport, high levels of enthusiasm. Next one here, I know you guys have heard this one before, but gosh dang it, you need to be cutting food. Why? Because it's the cheat code in our business. You should be cutting at least 5 pieces of food on every single demo. If you're like, I'm not really good at talking to people and I don't feel very confident yet in this job because I'm new or whatever it may be, that's cool. Do what I did. I used to not have a lot of confidence either like 15 years ago. My manager at the time, Marcus, he would just like, Dante, just cut food, read your book, and then everything's gonna work out. It worked out. So what I would tell you is the same thing. If you're not cutting tomatoes, that's a mistake. If you're not cutting bread, that's a mistake. If you're not cutting a pineapple, I hear that's a big thing nowadays with a lot of the younger reps. You should be doing that stuff too. You should be cutting an apple. You need to cut 5 pieces of food. You're in their house most of the time, obviously not a virtual, but if you're at their house, you should be able to cut food with them.
By the way, does anybody cut food even on virtual demos? Yeah. This is why they sell. I know Paige does it too.
So, are they assistant managers?
Yep.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, tomatoes, just literally just angle and cut. You cutting it, okay, you ever watch a commercial and it makes you hungry and you're not eating the food but they are? It's because your brain can't really tell the difference of what's happening. They're just seeing the experience. So cut food.
That makes that the Taco Bell commercials get me sometimes. Yeah, I just see the food and I see things happening and it makes me want that for some reason. So you have to cut food, guys. There's no mistake that 2 of the assistant managers here that, which I'm guessing you guys probably sell the most out of this group right now, is that they're cutting food. Like, the proof is in the pudding. If you're not cutting food, cut food. Oh, potatoes. I don't know why I forgot about potatoes. Like, you should be cutting potatoes too. You can use it for so many things. I know you guys don't have a cheese knife when you guys first start, but you should get one at some point. If you cut a potato with a cheese knife, perfection. So, pro tip there. And the 5th one here, this is probably going to be the unsexiest one out of all of these today, is follow your manual. You guys have heard that once or twice, right? Here's the reason why. Do you guys know how they make that manual? Has anyone told you? No? They make it from guys like us. They interview people that sell more than I do. And they say, hey, what's the latest and greatest way of selling Cutco? And you know what Cutco does? They take all the best people's lines and all the best people's practices, and then they basically compile it and put it in an order, and then they put it into a book, and then they print it so they give it to you guys. So that way when you're doing your names and uses on your homemaker set, it's the same words that I say when I say a homemaker set. When you guys are doing your clothes and you're trying to drop down and do that whole process, that's the same stuff we do. By the way, Mrs. Jones, just, like when you do your recommendations, like we do the same like recommendation approach for us that are still doing a lot of demos. But if I'm dropping down from like a homemaker to like a galley and ask them like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what is it about the homemaker you're unsure of? They give you the reason. And you guys notice in your book, like it has like the most common reasons. Those, guess where they get those? From us. And then we go, hey, no promise, Jones, I totally get it. It's definitely an investment, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Just so you know, we have a set a little smaller than this one. It's a few less knives for a lot less money. And based on what you're telling me, most people feel like it's a better fit for you. It sound familiar so far. The idea is that you're able to drop down faster and smoother. And the reason why our reps sell more than they ever have before is because our manual gets better year over year over year. So I know you guys follow your manual, but I also know there's someone in this room that doesn't follow the manual. I don't know who it is though. You know who you are. And here's the thing. I ran an office for 4 years. I understand the reps that do well, 99% of the time it's because they follow their manual. And by the way, when you read your manual and you go word for, not kind of, not sort of, not mostly, word for word, you say all the right things. But if you can just smile and do this other stuff I told you about enthusiasm, you focus on the enthusiasm. Let the manual tell you what to say. You just read the words and you just look up and smile and just make a couple of cheesy jokes. I think you'd be surprised how much cutco you can sell. So if you want to raise your enthusiasm with your customers and buying stuff, I know I'm out of time here, it looks like right now, so I'm going to have to cut it there. But those are like the 5 main things I would say to really get you started. And then hopefully you guys sell a lot and get a lot of promotions, and I hope to see you guys on the events team someday. So,
round of applause.
Yeah.
All right, before we finish up, I've got some free Cutco to give away. Hopefully you benefit from it. Stick around till then. All right, so I got all 41 entries into that. And while I'm doing that, I need you to go ahead and fill out your team meeting sign-out form. So I'm going to go ahead and post this on the wall. Thank you.